welcome. I'm excited to be here and talk to you about what we're building at Diligent Robotics and essentially the next generation of robots that are going to be working side by side with people. I will introduce you to Moxi, what we like to call a minimum viable product humanoid or minimum viable humanoid that we have deployed in the real world now with real market traction and with paying customers. So let's dive in. So who are we, right? We are a human-centered robotics company focusing on solving the labor crisis that we all see coming. We have deep expertise in putting robots and people side by side in dynamic human environments. And we've decided to tackle healthcare as the first market because there's a massive need, and this is where our robots make a difference every single day and improve patient outcomes. The environment is complex, dynamic, and it's a perfect proving ground for putting robots right next to people. So healthcare's had a massive labor problem for years, and this problem has only gotten worse with COVID-19, and it's accelerated this right to a crisis moment. Hospitals are in this new normal, they have to navigate a sustained labor shortage, and if you look at the numbers, the stats show the results as well, right? So nurses walk 4 to 6 miles every single shift. They spend less than 30% of their time on direct patient care. Half of nurses quit within the first 2 years of practicing. And the US Labor Bureau statistics show that we're gonna forecast shortage of 200,000 nursing jobs every single year for the next decade. This is why at Diligent, we've spent thousands of hours shadowing clinicians and nurses, and we've seen firsthand just how busy they are. They don't even have time to grab a coffee or even get lunch. So we've built robots to really help them work at the top of their license and let them focus on what is important, patient care. So this is Moxi. This is what we've built, a general purpose mobile manipulation robot working with hospitals today. Moxi utilizes its minimum viable humanoid form factor to do hospital-wide navigation, a critical first step to automating material transport all around the hospital. Key features that allow Moxi to really help and transform the way work happens is that it has an arm, right? It allows it to interact with the environment. We have a full sensing suite and compute that allows us to perform AI at the edge. Moxi also has key features like a secured locked storage, socially expressive head, and a backend that allows us to really think about, right, all the data that we were just talking about. How do we get it to the cloud? How do we utilize it? How do we capture this rich and important data set that allow us to transform the way we do tasks and robots interact with the world? And we have to connect and remain connectivity to the cloud. This is a non-trivial task, right? Robots, basements don't work well together, right? So what does Moxi do today? Moxi is a point-to-point delivery robot that takes on real work of teams. Some of the top items that Moxi transports are labs, medication, lightweight gear, and every time Moxi completes a delivery, it's not just rolling down a hallway. It's solving some of the hardest problems in robotics with real-world reliability. So for every trip, Moxi has to navigate a dynamic crowd environment, push buttons, open ADA-compliant doors. We have to swipe in secure areas with badges. We have to call and ride elevators and interact with people on both ends of that delivery. This is what we call mobile manipulation at a commercial level around people. And we're not just doing it once. We've done more than 1.2 million deliveries, saving clinicians over 500,000 hours over the time frame that our fleet has been deployed so far. So we want to see Moxi videos, right? What does the robot do? Get a little bit of sense. Here's Moxi. We have not just deployed a robot, but we've deployed a full end-to-end solution, right? This is a kiosk that the nurses, or in this case, a pharmacy tech is interacting with, allows them to call the robot down. The robot shows up. They have a full interface where then they select which drawer they want to use. They could write a note, leave it to the other person on the other side who's making delivery. You scan in, you put, in this case, an IV bag, and send the robot off on its way. And then the pharmacy technician can go do their own work. On the other side, a nurse comes and can badge in and be able to get that IV bag, where otherwise she would have had to walk down, the pharmacy tech would have had to go get it, right? It doesn't fit into the pneumatic system, and this is true labor savings for the staff. At Diligent, we often talk about the data flywheel, right? We just heard, right, about data and how difficult it is to get. Our robots do operate 24/7. It is, hospitals don't stop, and our robots can't stop either. And we've spent years spinning up this data flywheel. Now, every single robot delivery adds to our database of millions of edge cases, and we have one of the fastest learning rates, I would say, of putting robots out into the complex human environment. These deployments power our AI model learning, which unlocks more capabilities, and then unlocks more use cases, and then data. We take our data and use it to train our own visual language models that can run on the edge. This is the output from our perception system that shows semantic scene segmentation, as well as an overlay of molecular depth estimation. We've been pushing the boundaries, honestly, of what fits on compute while maintaining battery life. To be safe, we're roaming on the hallways. We can't rely on cloud and have to run real-time. We have to run inference in real time directly on our platform. What we've learned so far while deploying these models is that busy, dynamic environments is that we are hitting the limits of reactive systems, I would say, right? So this is, you're seeing the scene, you're reacting to what's happening. But instead, we're seeing that we need to be seeing ahead. We have to be predicting what's happening. We need to understand what's going to happen, because those few seconds that the world is changing are crucial for then how the robot can then interact with the world. So this is where we'll go a little bit deeper as I get further into the presentation. But we've seen very much, for example, in an elevator bay, where a robot, there might be 6 to 8 different elevator cars. The robot has to figure out which one to get onto, right? That 2 to 3 seconds where you're looking forward in the future really does make a difference in terms of getting onto the elevator. That's the difference between having the door close on your face. So what you're seeing here is what we've been experimenting with is really pushing the boundaries of building world models to allow the robot to do that foresight. Here's a visual representation of our work of deploying that. We have RGB frames being predicted where the model has been given the current world state and then the actions that the robot is planning on taking or can take, right? A series of potential actions. And then you see on the left, that's where the robot was predicting the elevator is clear from the initial view, right? I can go in, the robot can go in and navigate. And on the right, we see something similar where we have a door where Moxi opens tons and tons of doors every single day, and understanding when that door is just about to open and that the future is opening makes a difference for the robot to be able to go and navigate that successfully. As we are experimenting and continue to push the boundaries and applying the model to fleet, I'm excited to announce that we are accelerating this progress by being a part of the first inaugural cohort of Physical AI Fellowship, the first of its kind program from AWS, NVIDIA, and M.S.E Robotics. This fellowship will continue to accelerate our building of foundation models for humanoid robots operating in dynamic human environments. Okay, so I talked a lot about the company, the challenges in the healthcare, but you're all here, right, to learn about deployments. What do you take away from this? What have we seen, right? And what we've seen is Moxi has been doing point-to-point deliveries in one of the hardest environments to do mobile manipulation that really requires us to push the boundaries of embodied AI. So, as a reminder, Diligent doesn't have robots deployed as pilots or POCs. We have proven product market fit with real customers, 90+ robots deployed over 25 hospitals, for more than 2 years operating 24/7 because, like I mentioned before, hospitals don't shut down, hospitals don't close. They rely on our robot to do their deliveries. So what does this translate into? In order for a robot to do hospital-wide transport, Moxi needs to interact with hundreds of thousands of doors and tens of thousands of elevators each month with our fleet. And this just continues to grow as we continue to deploy more robots out into the world. If we break this down, right, on average, that means every single delivery requires at least one elevator ride, and we open multiple doors in order to make this happen. If we really start to break down the problem, right, so I'm going to show some quick videos here, right? This is Moxi, one of the simplest door cases just to prove its point, where Moxi has a badge, scans the badge scanner, then from there the robot has to detect, right, the door is open and then start to navigate through, and this is what we call a successful door navigation. On the right, something a little bit more complicated in elevators. It's a smaller target, millimeters do matter here, and Moxi has to perceive and be able to plan quickly, be able to get to the elevator button and press. Okay, so what goes into that? If we break it down, you have to perceive the device, like I mentioned, you have to go really quickly and be able to get through the door before the door shuts on the robot's face, right? These doors sometimes stay open for 2 to 3 seconds, and it's even a struggle for people to walk through. You would imagine that in a hospital environment, every single door has sensors. If you stood in the doorway, you wouldn't get hit. No. Like if you stood in the doorway, you will get whacked, and our robot has to get through because otherwise it will get whacked. If you look at elevator writing, then it's even harder, right? You have to get to the right location in the lobby. You have to perceive now the call buttons and the floor buttons. You have to know which elevator car arrived and is it ready and okay for you to board, right? Is there space? Is there a wheelchair? Are there beds? Is it something that the robot shouldn't go on? And once you get onto the elevator, you have to get off onto the right floor. And what we've discovered in deploying robots in this environment is ADA compliance is really just a suggestion, right? Like they might have been compliant at one point in time, but definitely not throughout the deployment of these robots. So when it all comes together, it might feel easy. So here we have Moxi and one of our more complicated manipulation behaviors where you have to scan to get access to a access-controlled floor and then quickly be able to then push the button so that you can get to that floor before your access expires. So there is a timeout period. Then the robot, you can see, pushes the button, and then once it arrives at the right floor, we'll exit. Now, looks simple, but I like to now go through a little bit of the examples, just a snippet of what we're seeing in our day-to-day. It's almost like a Where's Waldo, right? Can you spot the door device in the scene? I'm often amazed at the creativity of people when it comes to installing things in hospitals. You have on the left, right, like a door access device directly built into a door frame. We see a surprisingly high number of access door panels next to hand sanitizers, or in this case, directly attached to a hand sanitizer. There's something around hospitals where they want you to use the hand sanitizer every single time you touch something, I think. And elevators. It's amazing where, skip through. It's amazing how much variance you see there. So this is an elevator call button on the far corner here, right up against the wall, directly on the frame in an elevator. Half floors. I honestly didn't know there were such things as half floors until we started to encounter hospitals where they're old, they have multiple buildings that come together, they get stitched together that way, and then elevator floors have to navigate that, and our robots have to figure that out. And for us, this is data. This is data that goes into our massive data set that allows us to understand, like, this, how do you handle that? Okay, so say this is still a static environment, right? You can plan around it, you can perceive the environment pretty easily, right? Easily do obstacle avoidance. And then you have true dynamics in people, right? So here's beds, IV poles, crash carts, things that just get in the way, and we have to figure out how do we still complete that crucial delivery when you can't get access easily. And then I'd always like to throw fun images where you think hallways in a hospital are pretty straightforward, but they do have things like this narrow space where a bathroom door opens straight out into the hallway. And sure enough, our robot gets whacked. And we have to figure out how do we navigate that very small space without having to deal with the impacts. And what we've decided, and actually our next version of the robot, is you just include bumpers, right? Like our robot can navigate and avoid. People are very bad at that, right? Just expect that you're gonna have the cart or something roll around the corner and just run into your robot. And then I haven't even added people into the equation, right? So I've shown you the environment changing. I've shown you how things in the environment has variance. Now if you throw people into it, this is where things really get fun. So I have a video here from Moxi's point of view. It's going to be trying to get onto an elevator in a very busy lobby. It's sped up, so you can see the robot is trying to get to the lobby waypoint, right? It pushes on the elevator button successfully. It's like, great, I'm gonna go and wait for my elevator to show up. It detects, right, has to find the one out of the 5 that's open. Doesn't quite make it, right? Like, gets cut off by a person with a cart. It's like, okay, fine. I'll do it again, right? Robots are really, really good at doing things again. So it pushes on the button, waits, but that one was already there, right? The elevator was already there, the doors were already open, so then it's shorter time, the robot can't get there. It's like, okay, we'll do this again, right? And so you can imagine the cyclical nature of our robots getting stuck there, going again and again. And this is one of our early hospitals. We were really pushing the limits early on of how to get robots to ride elevators around people. So how do we solve this at Diligent? We take several approaches. One, I've mentioned, right? We collect data And we use that data to really, I hope these examples now show you why those seconds really make a difference, right? You have to really know when you're gonna go, where things are coming around the corner, where they might, and that's how you go from reactive to really starting to be forward planning. We are, like I mentioned, a human-centered robotics company. We have deep roots in human-robot interaction and understand how to do that well. Or at least I think we understand how to do that well. And so we ask for help, right? We have our robots that in busy environments where there's people, why not leverage those people? One of our features that we released here is Moxi asking if it sees a person in the environment to help, just like we do when we ride elevators. When we released this, we discovered that Moxi asks for help about 30% of the time for elevator rides during busy environments, which is super interesting to see. And people love it. You'd think that they'd be annoyed, and when we go and talk and we're like, oh, we're improving Moxi's manipulation, it'll ask for help less. They're like, no, 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 I like helping the robot, like, right? So it's really interesting when you think about that dynamic and what happens when Moxi becomes your teammate and is with you side by side, right, day in and day out. And then finally, sometimes we just rely on the staff members, right? We have to think about change management. Here, a bed needs to get on the elevator, it's busy, they have to go quickly, and we teach them, right? This is how you use the e-stop, right? Quickly use the e-stop, move the robot out of the way. We're continuously collecting data during this entire time, and that feeds into our data set, right, of all these corner cases and millions of corner cases that we can then use. So in the future, we might not have to ask them to use that e-stop. So I mentioned a little about Moxi people. Moxi interacts with thousands of clinicians daily. This is maybe 1% of the photos we have where Moxi and people they're just thrilled to have the robot in the environment. Selfies are a huge hit. We hear stories all the time of how Moxi brightens up people's day. Just a little bit of joy, right, in their otherwise incredibly difficult work. People talk to the robot. Moxi actually doesn't have full dialogue right now, but people still have full conversations. It is on the roadmap, but it's fascinating. And we've seen people, they give robot names, right? Roxy is feistier than their cousin Moxi, and so they like Roxy more. And we're really starting to understand what dynamics of that interaction and how should that work, right? And what are the impacts, right, of having a robot really deployed working with you for a long period of time. So I thought it'd be fun to give an example, like, right, hashtag startup life, right, early deployments. This is like it's setting the scene, right? It's New Year's Eve, right? I'm on pager duty, right? Startup founder. I get a call, right? That our head camera, right? Our main perception system that allows a robot to do manipulation is down, right? You can see here. It seems like maybe the optics sensor has gone bad. You probably can see where this is going. And so, sure enough, I drive to the hospital. I have the new RealSense in hand, cables, all my tools. And it turns out, you know, the staff just really wanted Moxi to celebrate with them, right? It's cold in the winter, so they gave Moxi a beanie. And so the things I never imagined, right? We have a whole costume protocol now that we share with our clients. And pretty much 50% of our fleet at any point in time over the year is dressed up in all sorts of different outfits. And every once in a while, we still get the occasional pager duty where we're like, why is the robot not working? Yep, turns out they didn't follow their costume protocol. So I am pretty much out of time. I can go on, right, for days about corner cases. For example, right, I haven't even talked about the fact that as a roboticist, I know way too much about Active Directory, Wi-Fi, network configurations, change management, right? Know a lot more than I ever thought and I wanted to know. And so what does the future look like? So just to tease, right? We are seeing our customers ask for more, right? They now trust Moxi. They see that the robots can do deliveries, part of integrated into their daily work, and they want more, right? And so for us, that means that we can continue our robotics journey and add more dexterous manipulation. And so let's see next year, right, where we'll start to look at cross-embodiment learning and new product lines that will augment and continue to support Moxi. So stay tuned. I'm gonna need to do a plug, right? We're hiring across all engineering. Join our mission-focused team, pushing the boundaries of putting humanoid robots in dynamic environments. Here are some of our values, right? Do the most good. We know that every single delivery has a patient on the other side of it, and every single delivery has impact and returns time to clinicians. And from that perspective, it means that patient outcomes are directly improved, and we impact lives that way. And make real magic. Like I've hopefully been showing you, right? We're solving some of the hardest problems in robotics, in embodied AI, in incredibly messy and human dynamic environments. So join us. You'll be joining an elite team of engineers and work with leaders who have deployed autonomy at scale. I can't end my talk without another shameless plug that we recently hired 2 world-class leaders, Rashad Haq and the former VP of AI and robotics from Cruise. He's currently somewhere in the audience right now. I don't know if you want to wave. And Todd Berger, the former COO from Cruise. They have joined us to really take Moxi and the future product lines to the next level and really scale. So thank you. In the audience, we have Rashad and Adam, one of our perception and AI engineers. Please find us, ask questions, find out about all those corner cases I didn't have time to talk about, and learn more. Thank you.